The next little job is to put the clutch pack back in and get the clutch lever to work. This is really simple clutch, so it's easy to explain. Something not easy to explain is my invisible camera here. Brand new, can't tell you too much about it, but I'll show you what's going on with that belt using it. So let's get this guy up in the air, put that clutch in, adjust that cable, and then I'll show you what it does. Alright, so the basic premise here is when you pull on the clutch lever up here, it pulls on this cable here and makes this come in. You see how that rod's right there? So when you pull the clutch lever, it pushes that rod ever so slightly, and then we'll push the clutch packs apart. The clutch packs being together or apart is what determines if this here is connected to this here. And that's achieved with all these discs. So I've got these exactly the way I took them out. And we'll just put them back in. Now it's not nice to get oil on these, but I mean, big pieces of leaf and all is no good either. So clutch pack and then pressure plate. And there's a ton of these. In a car, there's just one clutch and one pressure plate. But in a bike, there's a ton of them. So let's just fast forward here. Alright, so as you've gathered, all of the clutch packs are connected to the inner part, and all of the pressure plates are connected to this part. And them being separated or together is what allows the engine to continue to turn with the wheel stopped versus run the back wheel. This little part is what that rod pushes on, and when it pushes on that, this whole thing will come out. And you notice how there's a nut here and some washers? This isn't how it is in the bike. This is just to keep it all together. If I took this off, all these springs would go everywhere. Gotta get this in, put these bolts on, and then I can take this part, put it back together to adjust the clutch. You notice how there's these little bumps here? That's so when you put these on, even though they're loose, they kind of stay. So I turn them until they just barely clear that hump. So the bumps, they're these grooves in the nut so that it stays locked even if it's loose. Alright, everything's on there. Now I can take this off, and I think there's like a Phillips head screw in there. And the box is empty. Empty bag. And then these are some extra O-ring seals for the special part that I put in the transmission, so it wouldn't re-leak in the same exact way that required me to take this thing apart, find the crack, repair the crack with this. Hopefully it's ugly enough that people ask what the hell happened, and then when I tell them I'm terrible at TIG welding, they'll go, well, it's better than I could have done. It's probably a half. You work on one of these long enough, you figure it out. No, it's a little bit bigger than a half. Is that screwdriver right? Yeah, it'll work. So it must be, is it 9/17 or 7/16? 9/16. And with these back on, I can take this off. These washers will come off, and everything will stay together. I forget if it's righty-tighty or lefty-loosey. So the way this works is you've got the clutch cable has as much give as possible. So it's loosey-goosey here. And then you turn this until it's got no loosiness to it at all, and then you see how it's tight now. And I am going to make sure this cable as close as it can be. Turn this out until you get a lot of slack in the clutch cable. You know, it's the other way. Because we want to make this loosey-goosey, not tight. Oh, it's getting held up by this guy. Who is a 9/16th? Bye, baby. Alright, have fun. Bye. These should be on here tighter. I don't know how much tighter. Alright. Put it right there. Thank you. So I don't know exactly how much of this is personal preference. But this part is more of an art because all this piece does is squeezes this against the clutch packs. So if you're having trouble with it dragging, if it's trying to turn the wheel over in neutral, then loosen those up, I guess. Alright, so at some point, you get to the point where it doesn't want any more slack. Okay, tight, and then you loosen it up just a little bit. The reason why you loosen it up a little bit is because you want some space between the rod and this. Not a lot of space, but you don't want these two rubbing all the time, so you back it out slightly. And then, once it's backed out, you put this nut on it. And what this nut does is locks the adjuster here. And pretty much all Harleys are like this. You want to adjust the primary clutch adjustment with the clutch cable slacked out. And then you want to adjust the clutch cable. And you always want there to be a little bit of give. You don't want it tight. Right, you want to tighten this enough that you can't adjust it no more. You don't want to crank it down. And then you want to figure out where this needs to be. So that's way too loose. See, this is still too much slack. But it's getting real close. And if we stopped, you'd still be able to ride the bike. Alright, that's more of what I like. Now you tighten down the tightening bolt. Locking bolt. Nut? Locking nut? Whatever. You lock it down. And you have to say, that ain't going nowhere. So now when I kick it, the motor will actually turn over. And let's test it right now. You'll be able to see these clutch packs move in and out a little bit. You should be anyway. You see that? Alright, let's put her down and I'll show you with my invisible camera what happens now. So, closing thoughts. Kind of regretting not putting the starter on there. I guess I can change my mind later, but oof, this bike is a workout.